Hello, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. Welcome to the Rebel Collective. I am here with my co-host.
Drago Reid.
Yes, and today we have a very special guest, such a dear friend of mine, and I know so many of you know of John DeSouza. It is always amazing to talk to you. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. And Drago's going to go into your bio, and then we're going to dive into some really, really important questions.
Thanks, Laura.
All right, today we have a very special guest whose work was pivotal in the awakening of the entire UFO phenomenon. John DeSouza was an FBI special agent working counter-terrorism and paranormal cases for over 25 years. He was also an attorney and maintained a top security clearance during his time in the U.S. government. Known as the X-Man, he collected the true-life X-Files that were used on the highly popular show The X-Files, and is often referred to as the original Fox Mulder due to his involvement in investigations that mirror the speculative and mysterious themes of the popular television series. He also shares many of these true-life X-File cases in his best-selling books, The Para-Investigators, The Extra-Dimensionals, and The Clear Hearers. Wow, what a career, man. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you so much, Drago, Laura. It's great to be here with you guys. I think we're all having a similar experience going through life where we are experiencing all of this terrible backlash from the lords of tech, whether it's YouTube or Google and other forms. And I just happy to be here with you guys because I think we have a lot of common experience because I just got my YouTube channel was just demonetized just recently, and it was for no reason at all. And and I know Laura has gone through similar experience, and you too, Drago. And it is incredible when that happens. And they have so much power, and they have so much lack of discretion, and so it's important we have to come together and help each other because they are going through a new round of what do you call censorship. And people think it's just they're getting ready for the elections to influence the elections. I don't think that's why they're doing it. Google and YouTube and everybody else, they're getting ready for this terrible, terrible new wave of censorship to get ready for their final great cabal operation that they don't want us talking to each other about. So
Right.
that's why we see a lot of this happening right now, as at a time when supposedly, the Congress and Trump are supposed to be helping us with this censorship and helping us to get back from it. But now it looks like no, they're going to a new round that's going to be bigger than any previous censorship round that has ever existed on the earth. So yeah, so thank you for welcoming me. And yeah, it's more important now, rather more than ever, that we help each other to get our words out to the public as much as possible. And if that
Absolutely.
means Rumble, then let it be Rumble, let it be whatever other outlets we need to use now fast. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Laura.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, do you feel like they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, though, to just silence so much in the face
Yeah.
of just this next level of insanity? I mean, the supporting of abortions, vaccines, pharma, transgenderism, accepting toxic food, and transhumanism,
Exactly.
what you're talking about here. Their
Yes.
final goal to eradicate humanity as we know it. And how is it possible that an intelligent species would consent to its own extinction? Do you feel that this is kind of shooting themselves in the foot, that even if people are silenced, that people just come to their common sense, or just really
Yeah.
see this level of assault instead of like complying and giving their power away? I mean, do you think
Yeah.
that this is a catalyst for the Great Awakening?
They are absolutely the lords of tech. The tech giants are basically destroying themselves when they do this kind of thing. When they censor us, when they cancel our channels, when they take down our videos for no reason whatsoever, except that it's talking about unapproved topics, like you said. Those you just rattled off five of the most important topics for them to protect. It's incredible, including the purveying of toxic food in the United States, which doesn't happen in any other country. Like no other country feeds its own people through the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, toxic, poisonous foods on purpose, and clearly in the open. It's not a secret. It's not a secret. And yet they're doing it because it pursues this depopulation agenda that they have going on. And I'll give you a quick example. This last time when when YouTube demonetized my channel, then they always ask you, they always ask you, hey, you want to submit to our appeals process? Maybe you'll get the appeal. Maybe you'll. And I always send them back, whether it's YouTube or somebody else. I always send them back the same answer. I simply write. It's like 5 words in another language. It's an ancient language, unknown language, and it's a language. It's the saying, mene, 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 tekel aparsin. That's it. And some of you guys may recognize that if you read ancient texts, the sacred texts. It's from the Bible, and it's just a saying that says mene mene tekel aparsin. It just means you have been weighed in scales and found lacking, and your kingdom will be destroyed.
Whoa.
That's what it says. It's from the Bible, and it's about a time when what was it, the one of the Babylonian kings ransacked Israel and took all of their holy objects, their holy goblets, their other instruments that they used in the holy temple, and used them for a party. He was having a party. His name was Shadizar. I believe it was King Shadizar. And he had an evening party, and he had all of his people use all of the holy objects from the Israeli temple in order to defile them, to show how much contempt he had for the Israelis, for the Israelis and for their God. And they did that. They did party. And during the night's party, it wasn't even an entire angel showed up. Just the hand of an angel showed up and started writing on the wall right next to where King Shadizar was partying, and it wrote on there, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Aparsin. And then King Shadizar, he wanted, and they were all very scared. It was this giant hand appearing out of nowhere and writing this with his finger on the wall. And so he called for prophets and stuff, people, Israeli prophets who he didn't like, but he needed an interpretation, and they gave it to him. One of them showed up and said to him, hey, this says you have been weighed in the scales and found wanting, and your kingdom will be destroyed tonight.
And you send it to them? I love it.
Yeah. And sure enough, that night, the Persians, another empire came and destroyed his entire kingdom and killed that king and all of his followers as well. And that's where that comes from. And that's what I always send you to, because I do believe, like you said, Laura, they are killing themselves, because they will be called to account for this very, very soon, I think. And their whole thing will be destroyed. And we, people like us who have been taken down by them, we will get some recompense from them eventually. That's what I believe.
Right. I mean, do you feel, though, that the 5G, the graphene oxide, and just that whole link is to really just keep humans really assimilated into this level of mind control, so that they don't even recognize that they're agreeing to their own extinction, that they need that weaponry in order to link people into that? Because otherwise,
Absolutely.
most people would be awakening, right? I mean,
Absolutely. We had a great thinker that I only became aware of recently, named Laura Aboli. And she is, I'm telling you, I don't remember what foundation she's with, or what she's appears to be with a think tank of some kind. And she is just brilliant. And she recently made the speech that is titled informally, we are we are agreeing to our own extinction. And she made a tremendous speech. I think Drago said it was about 4 minutes long, the speech, but it's like, it's just that first part that just hits like a bomb, hits like a bomb, because it is amazing. And it's so true. It's so true. Like with all this wokeness that has been invented by the cabal and put into our educational systems, put into our culture, into the music, into so many things, so that it can pervade into our minds and our hearts. And it's completely a philosophy that is invented. It's invented in order to get us to agree to our own extinction. Whether we're agreeing with, that we wanna stand for Ukraine, we want to stand for Israel, or we want to stand for the Palestinians, whatever it is, with these woke philosophies, or we want to stand for anti-racism, whatever the nonsense is that they come up with in wokeness. If you're agreeing to these things, you're just agreeing to be destroyed, and that's the truth, because the number one item for them is always that depopulation agenda that they want, and that's being carried out right now, And I believe I can say the word on here with you guys, the word vaccination. you know, they they just recently caught a hospital. I don't recall the name. It's probably better that I don't recall the name, because that's just legal implications there. And but this hospital was just caught giving people who do not need it, giving people the vaccination for Ebola, when they did not just come from Africa. There was no connection to Ebola whatsoever. But for some reason, they gave these bunch of people like the Ebola vaccinations, which of course contain Ebola in them. So it doesn't make sense. Any of these things don't make sense unless you know that, ooh, that was a good moment. Unless you know that the priority these people are carrying out, and a lot of minions don't even know what agenda they're carrying out. That's the saddest part. They don't really know. They have no idea, but they're just following orders. They're just following orders at these hospitals that have become killing fields, the new killing fields for modern civilization. And they have no idea they think they're doing things sometimes for the benefit of patients, and they're not. They're not. They're doing things as the new method of destruction of people. So, people like us, we know that we have to avoid these hospitals and these medical people as much as possible, and that's easy for Drago. He's a very young man. He doesn't need to have any contact with medical people. But even as you get older, Drago, I'm telling you, just stay away from them. And we all have to get naturalists to replace the old medical systems that we used to contend with all the time. Definitely.
Speaking of that, I've actually avoided hospitals my entire life.
I knew it.
Unfortunately, I'm a side effect of the MK Ultra program and a MyLab so being experimented on my whole life is something I'm kind of sensitive to. And that led me to denounce all chemicals around 20 years ago. So no prescription drugs, no over-the-counter drugs, no chemicals in my shampoos. I don't eat public food hardly ever. The only time you ever see me eat public food is at an event, like a convention or a ufology show. That's it. Because I can't find organic produce near an event. You know how far it is to a grocery store. It sucks, but
I've been through everything you're saying. That's so funny.
every time it's like we got to prepare in advance. The first thing you do when you go to an event is go to the grocery store, get everything you need to do first, because you will never have time to do any of that.
Yeah, I bring a cook stove into my hotel and make my own stuff.
I've even seen Laura bring a grill with propane.
That's what you're doing
like
in there.
Contact in the desert once. You was cooking some food in your room. That was freaking awesome, man.
Nice.
Now you were mentioning this Ebola stuff. Number one, that's completely illegal. There is no implied consent when they did that medical procedure on that person because there's no science backing its validity and doing it. So Nuremberg's we through the Nuremberg trial, we find out that you can't experiment on humanity. And that's why we have implied consent laws. You're right. The hospitals are the new killing fields. That's a very profound statement. It's like, I feel that's going to be a chapter in my book. Thanks, John. I'm going to credit
Good.
you. But it's
Oh, thank you,
absolutely
Drago.
true. It's absolutely true, man. America, we're basically the prototype for the deep state. They want all places to be like us. And I believe they're attacking America the most because we're the nation of the world. People look up to us to help defeat the bad guys of the world. So if you see that, yes, we're one of the
Yes,
number one countries in the world that has the most obesity. We are the most poisoned by our own government. They wrote legislation that created the FDA and the EPA through bad guys. And it was to protect their own crimes, to protect their poisons and chemicals. Like it was Rockefeller medicine that changed the entire homeopathic approach to healing. Before the Rockefeller Initiative and him taking over the entire medical system, everything was plant-based. Then he basically wrote some legislation and basically convinced everyone that basically plants is like a druid thing, like it's a pagan thing, like you can't heal from plants. We have these industrial chemicals, they'll heal you. But no one ever seems to think about how did the entire pharmaceutical company start? It started with the Rockefellers. Long time ago, John Rockefeller was getting fined by all these companies for dumping all this industrial toxic waste. And he got smart one day and thought, what can I do with all this toxic waste and make money with it without disposing of it illegally? He created the pharmaceutical industry. We
that's
take
right.
all these industrial poisons, all these chemicals from manufacturing, we then dilute it down to its purest source, and then we market it as a pharmaceutical. That's why all chemicals all have side effects, period. Hardly ever anybody doesn't suffer these side effects, and they make people think that it's rare to suffer these side effects. But everyone here knows that it's a lie. We've been lied to. We've been mass indoctrinated. We had our own United States generals start the entire Operation Mockingbird to start the propaganda in World War II, and they wrote all these different laws. Obama he wrote laws against allowing the government to lie to the public, and it's just like, where does it end at this point, John?
Absolutely. And when you write your book, Drago, you have to tell personal stories in these books a lot, and so I just would suggest to you that you would write about what happened to an associate of mine that everybody knows about already. You probably know also about what happened with Robert David Steele, the former FBI CIA agent, and it's a hair-raising story and very very painful because it goes right into what you spoke of at the beginning. He basically got what he believed. He believed it was COVID, uh, COVID, and I believe it was just the regular flu. It's pretty deadly also. But he showed up at his local hospital and he was there and he said, I'm going to make them do what I want them to do. So he brought his own, what do you call that medicine that cured everybody?
Ivermectin.
That's it, the ivermectin. So he brought his own ivermectin to the hospital. And then he said to the hospital staff when he was there, he said, I don't want you guys to treat me with anything except this ivermectin. And maybe you can give me a vitamin C drip as well. Maybe you can give me that. And I'll be good with that. That's all I want. Well, he didn't know that what these killing fields regularly do and what they regularly did during the entire COVID season is that they just have the patient declared what's called belligerent, a
Mm-hmm.
belligerent patient, a non cooperative patient. So if you don't have another advocate with you there, then you're basically up the creek, because once they declare you a belligerent, a non-cooperative patient, they can basically do anything they want to you.
You have no
That's
right
it.
at that point.
You have no rights at all from that point. So that's what they did with him. They tied him down in some form, and then they went ahead and they administered the good old what's called remdesivir. Remdesivir,
Oh man.
and remdesivir is extremely deadly. It kills people right away.
On your organs, right?
Yes, it shuts down people's organs. And as a matter of fact, what they've done in the hospitals is people caught on to remdesivir killing people, and so they changed the name from remdesivir. Now it's called Verclery, like sounding similar to victory, Verclery. And that's what they're using now, because the Fauci protocols said you have to use this medicine for people. So now they've got Verclery, and they're still administering it to people because people don't even know it's remdesivir. Anyway, the point of the story is that yeah, they administered the Verclery or remdesivir to Michael to Steele, and they had him, tied him up, and then of course they put him on the old respirator that because that remdesivir shut down his lungs and everything else. So they put him on the respirator things that we now are finding out are more likely to kill people than to help them. So they were able to kill him with all of that, putting that together. So what do they get out of that? They probably get all of his organs. They probably get all of his blood, his plasma, and a lot of other goodies that they really care about. So it's just a very important story that people need to become aware of, because they're trying to bring this COVID stuff back right now. And they're trying to bring back disease X, whatever they're calling this disease X. And now apparently Ebola too. So
And Mercer,
they're
what was that?
go
Mercer's?
ahead.
The
Say again.
Mercer, there was a Mercer one or something.
You mean the medicine name that they?
No, another disease.
Oh, oh,
Mercer's or
Are you talking about MRSA, the one that's non-curable,
yeah.
the flesh-eating?
Marlsberg.
Yes, that's right. Marlsberg is just another form of Ebola, I think, if I remember correctly. And it's really bad.
But is
It's
this like
really,
zombie apocalypse? Are these diseases are what one would like become like zombie like in that
that's
connection with
right.
5G, right?
That's right. And they are trying to do that. And that does connect with 5G. And, guys, and also what I also wanted you guys to look into is another initiative that these guys are doing. Besides the spreading of disease and instruments so that they can bring back more vaccinations and such, they are also doing what we just saw in this movie that the Cabal revealed recently. Leave the World Behind, right? Leave the World Behind. You guys must have seen that piece of propaganda.
Lots of predictive programming.
Right. But not just predictive programming, actual direct manipulation, where they just out in the open, put all kinds of things in there to show you how the cabal thinks, what they believe. Of course, everyone knows that that movie was made by Obama or Obama's clone that's existing right now. I personally, I believe that Obama was killed by the cabal when he wouldn't do some things they wanted, and that this creature that's there right now, I believe it's some kind of clone
For sure.
at this time. But the clones want to act exactly like the originals anyway, so it really doesn't have too much to do with this, because the Obama entity and the other one that's with that one, and the Obama crowd, basically
Oh,
they
Big
made,
Mike.
yeah, exactly. And they made this movie, and they made it and they were not subtle. I have not seen, and by the way, I canceled Netflix for myself, because this is crazy what they did with this movie. This movie has so much direct manipulation propaganda. it's unbelievable. I haven't seen anything like this since I looked into movies like when the Nazis were trying to started their own Hollywood, and they did their own movies showing Nazis as great heroes of the Republic. This I haven't seen a propaganda film since that time, or since when they made the original movie way back. It's from ancient times. The I forget the name of it, but it was a movie to show how great the Ku Klux Klan was, how the Klan was like the heroes of the Republic way back. It's one of the original movies that were made on television. I think it was like way back in the 40s or something like that. But so this propaganda was so overt in this movie. It's shameful. I mean, the whole movie was started with entire sections on how people, human beings, are just are really these horrible viruses on the earth that need to be gotten rid of. I mean, like the depopulation agenda was set out right in the first scene of the movie, where you have Julia Roberts talk about how hideous and horrible human beings are, how people are just like a disease that needs to be eradicated. It was unbelievable. But because they had a pretty actress say it, I guess, it makes it more palatable that you're listening to this direct propaganda. It's just, it's just off. And then after that, the depopulation agenda just got worse and worse. And then they got into that when it all comes down, when everything's going down, you guys have to realize that as white people, you can't trust, the dark races. You can't trust them. They're bad, and you have to watch out for them very much. And then it was like to the black people, when it all goes down, you black people, you cannot trust whitey. You can't trust white people. They're bad. They all have guns and they're evil. And it was like, what? It was like for anyone who actually was listening to that movie, with a discerning eye, discerning ear, it just would have been revolting, revolting. It's just incredible. So people just need to, I'm torn whether to tell people to see that movie, but I think you should, because it revealed all the thoughts and assessments of the cabal, basically, towards us, towards human beings, because the cabal ultimately is not, they're not human. They are not human. Whether you believe they are reptilian, or whether you believe they are extra dimensional at the tops of their pyramid, they are not. They're ultimately, the bottom line is, they're not human, and they are the ones dominating all these human minions, and it's the worst position to be in, is to be one of their minions, because eventually they're going to be killed too. They're just going to be saved for last. So this is just incredible what was revealed in that movie, and I would urge everyone to see that movie again and just see what they are trying to do, because it reveals so much about everything that they are doing. And I just think it's just a thing that we can get prepared for if
But
we look at the overt propaganda.
but you're saying they're expendable, though. They're being used, but then they'll be expendable as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Probably about like 95% of their minions are
Right.
going to be ultimately expended.
But they've been lured with the fame and the I just have to say something real quick.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke, who was in that movie, was also in a movie called Regression, and it was about satanic ritual abuse. But at the end of the movie, they said that this is the phenomena of fake memories, or that satanic ritual abuse doesn't really exist. And he was in that movie too, which was total propaganda of people thinking that people that are exposing satanic ritual abuse are actually these are just false memories. So he was in that movie and the one that you're talking about. So anyway, I'm sure Drago's got some questions there, but I just had to say that if people haven't seen Regression, it was shocking because I thought they were exposing satanic ritual abuse, and at the end they say it's all fake.
Wow. Speaking of that, Laura, I also sent you and Drago a second package document that actually has in it like a free pass to see my movie I was in, A Thousand Pieces, which had a lot in it from Kathy O'Brien, who I believe you've worked with, probably extensively, and all that satanic ritual abuse stuff is in there, and it's a really good movie. It was the last movie that Robert David Steele was in before they murdered him, and it's pretty interesting stuff. It also says a lot about during my time in the FBI, how the FBI towards the end of my career they found out who I was and how and what things I was thinking about, and they tried to fire me. They tried to fire me and pin some false charges on me, and luckily I was able to escape from that, and I was able to retire from the FBI at a time when what's his name, the evil Pope, we called him like the evil bishop. What's his name? He not Louis Free. It was
Francis?
the guy. Say again.
Pope Francis?
Yeah, no. But we called this guy like the evil Pope Francis as well. And he was the guy that Obama sent to be in charge of the FBI. And he was probably the worst thing that's ever happened. And luckily he's gone now. So I try not to think about that too much. But yeah, so I'd like you guys to see that movie because it's pretty interesting on those topics as well.
I'd imagine that
Incredible
Pepe. I would imagine that Pepe Orsini. He's basically the Black Pope. I believe he's one of the most darkest because he's above the White Pope. And no, a lot of people don't realize that Pepe Orsini is obviously part of the Orsini family, and that's basically the Rothschild Rockefeller family. That's their original name before they changed it when they converted to Judaism and all that stuff. It goes a little bit farther back, but like that's how they introduced themselves into the world.
Absolutely, but but from day to day, even now, people can see what the Pope that's there is doing. He's he's disavowing all the Christian beliefs, or even if you call them Catholic, even all the Catholic beliefs. He's just disavowing all of them. He just told all the Catholic priests that they can bless same-sex unions, which is basically saying that they can marry them, basically. And he just said like things like Jesus Christ is not the only way to God, something like that. It was insane. It was literally insane. And he's still the Pope. He's still the Pope. But for those of us who know, basically, the Catholic Empire really never had anything to do with Jesus Christ or Christianity. They were basically the last refuge of the Roman Empire. That basically it's the whole Roman Empire converted to a religion, and that's basically what the Catholic organization basically is. That's why they have so many problems. Oh, that looks delicious, Laura. I wish we had the technology. I could just get a bite there. But
Let's see that.
the same way, and this is the same way, because Drago, I know you study a lot of history, and it's the same way that the Roman Empire basically just as it went out of existence, it actually just converted into the Holy Roman Empire, which was the Catholic Church. It was just another word, another phrase for the Catholic Church. And that's why the Catholic Church is so rich, so has so many treasures and all of this stuff, and why they must ultimately, I mean, something has to be done about them. But that's just the way it is. I mean, the next book I'm going to be coming out with this year is a book. It's a book called The Christ-Based Transcendence. And it's basically the story of, it's basically starting a movement that is a refugee movement. It's a refugee movement for all the refugees from these major, what I call government religions. They are government religions. They are not people's religions, religious groups. They are government religions because each one of them, and I can prove this on paper, every single established religion, whether you're talking about Catholics, whether you're talking about even Muslims, whether you're talking about mainstream Christianity or any of them that are out there. They're all government religions that are more interested in serving the governments than they are serving their members. And that's very easily provable, very easily, because religious organizations have become the greatest instruments of control over the people, as compared to anything else that we've got. And we can show on paper every one of these religions are government religions. They all have signed not just one or two sets of documents. They have signed numerous contracts with the governments, agreeing to basically be their bitches. And that's what they've done, every one of them. And you can actually show those documents. Those are public. Those are public documents. And that's why when Jesus was not a religious figure, he railed against established religion more than anybody you've ever seen. He actually was so against the religious authorities of his day. And that's why this new book that I'm writing is going to show Jesus as a cosmic figure, not as a religious figure, which he's not, because we've been lied to all of our lives. All of our lives we've been told, oh, Jesus was real. He was a historical figure, but he was religious. He was part of our religion, whatever that religion of the day was. And even religions that don't, and the funny thing is, every one of those religions, those fake government religions, they all have to acknowledge Jesus. Because Jesus was real. He's in the history books. Every history book of every civilization has referred to him and talked about the things that he's done. So all the government religions have to deal with him. And they have to kind of say, yeah, he was real. But they just try to diminish him. They just say, oh, but he wasn't Son of God. He was just a nice prophet, a nice guy. He was a good mama's boy. Things like that they try to do. And they try to get away with. But not anymore, because people need to get away from these freaking religions. They have to get away from them, and they have to go actually look at what cosmic Jesus actually said about these religions. When he referred to churches, he wasn't talking about the Catholic Church. He wasn't talking about these government churches that we have here. When he referred to churches, he was talking about the bodies of believers and people who have his name upon them. That's what he was referring to as churches. He was not talking about these buildings that we have here at all, not even close. So anyway, I just had to go off on that because I know Laura knows a lot about that too.
Wow. Gosh, I'm so glad you're writing a book about this. Wow, that's...
Yeah, Jesus was basically uncovering the inversion of the Catholic Church, and basically what Yahweh, in his older name Enlil, a lot of people don't like to talk about that, but he was mentioning how the Catholics is basically an offshoot of the Roman story, but no one really talks about how the Roman story is basically the Anunnaki story. So you take that original Anunnaki bloodline, and that's why they run the entire world. That's why they are at the height of all the religious institutions and all the corporations. They're running all of them. And remember back in the day, we had this law that said there has to be a separation between church and state.
Yeah.
Wasn't that part of our Constitution? And now suddenly we no longer have it.
Yeah.
We have the National Security Act of 1947, which basically inverted all these natural laws and allow them to take our rights away from us in order to compel us legally to comply, period.
Absolutely. And that's going to get worse. The same way that the Patriot Act of, I don't know what year that was passed in, but the Patriot Act, yes, took away so many of our rights, just took them away, and just opened up everything for these extraordinary surveillance techniques to be used against Americans, not foreign people, not terrorists, but against Americans. It's just it's a terrible situation that's only going to get worse now, because now at this point they're not even bothering to try to get new legislation in order to violate our rights. They're just sending out ATF to private citizens' homes and just telling them, "Hey, show us the guns that you just bought. You know, we're entitled to see the guns that you just bought." Based on what? Based on what? I mean, the greatest patriots I've seen have been the people that slam their doors on the ATF and call the local sheriff to come and arrest them. And that's the best thing you can possibly do. You know, I've written to President Trump more than one occasion that when because of how the FBI has been weaponized against the people so much lately, that I feel they're not going to last much longer as an organization. I mean, how can they? How can they with the things they've been doing against people? And I've written to President Trump telling him when he's ready to replace the FBI with a new cadre of investigators, I would like to be involved in that because I just don't see the FBI lasting with whatever comes next. I just don't see it and we do need investigators. We need true investigators to be able to get to the bottoms of different things. And you know, probably the time for the FBI is past now. And when I tell people in the FBI that, they just laugh because they think, oh, we'll never be erased. Never. We're too powerful. We're too big. No, that's not true, because they don't know history. They don't know that in this country, and Drago, you may be able to verify this in some of your readings, but in this country, we had federal law enforcement used to be very rare, but it used to be dominated from the year 1860, the time that Lincoln was assassinated, right up until 1904, for about 40, 50 years. It was dominated not by the FBI. It was a group before the FBI. It was called the Pinkerton Detective Agency. They were a private contractor group that had a seat at DOJ in the United States in Washington, D.C., and they were in charge of federal law enforcement. And they were a spectacular group. They always had these sort of tweed plaid suits. They had those little bowlers. And they had all the most advanced weaponry that they used to ride on the trains with around their waist, under their suits. They were an incredible group. And like I said, they carried out federal law enforcement, even to other countries, all over, based in Washington, D.C. And they were a tremendous group. They're very admirable, very interesting. But then what happened in 1904? What happened? They got involved with corruption. They got involved with the great socialist movement of strikes. There were big strikes against the magnates of the time, the Harriman, and all the other robber barons that lived at that time, the guys who dominated the railroads and so forth. And so the Harriman and the magnates of industry at that time, they got the Pinkertons to work for them, even though Pinkertons were supposed to be working for the American people. But they got the Pinkertons to work for them, and they used them to break big strikes in New York City and in Pennsylvania that became huge riots, and the Pinkertons ended up killing dozens of working men and women that were at these riots in New York City and in Pennsylvania. And then as a result of that, the Congress just passed a law that, no, we're not having the Pinkertons anymore. We're going to get rid of them. Anybody who knows, the last great case that the Pinkertons had was trying to get Butch and Sundance, who were hiding out in Bolivia at the time. And that was their last really big case. They were trying to save their organization by doing that case and successfully getting Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and getting them back from Bolivia. It was a failure because they were double-crossed by the Bolivian governor, who went ahead and killed Butch and Sundance when they were about to pick them up. So then, like I said, the Pinkertons were just blotted out of existence from federal law enforcement in around 1904. And then what happened? J. Edgar Hoover then copied all of their techniques and started the FBI in 1908. In 1908, right after that. So the reason I tell that story is because people don't understand. It's a very easy thing for organizations, especially enforcement organizations, to just have the people say, that's too much corruption. We got to get rid of these guys. And it happens. It happens. It happened with the Pinkertons when they were in charge. They were the previous organization before the FBI. And now it's going to happen with the FBI again. And I see it happening. I see it coming to fruition very soon.
And it was the Pinkertons that got their start back in like the stagecoach times. They were like the elite security force that the elites would hire because they would use techniques that were unknown at the time, like
Yeah.
ambushing and guerrilla warfare and all kinds of stuff. So you got to think, how did the Pinkertons get all this information in the first place? Because they've been notated in so many major movies about
Right.
how they would rob the trains and all that stuff. But the problem is today it has to do with the executive services division. Most of the people that are heading all these corporations, they're a part of this executive division and they're installed in these positions. Like, let's think about like Andrew McCabe, Christopher Wray, like all these FBI guys, Robert Mueller, James Comey. Every single one of them has committed crimes and covered up crimes at the highest levels. Just the Mueller report right here, man. The stuff that's written in this book is a bunch of lies. This is a big thick book, man. And you know what? It's mostly redactions. So it's all redactions. So you have all these heads of the FBI basically covering up all these crimes. So you're right, John. What do we do at this point? Because the FBI is supposed to be one of the top divisions of the United States. And it's one of the most corrupt, like our CIA. Like CIA runs the Division D6, which John McCain was head of. That's the paramilitary version that operates inside the United States, doing domestic assassinations and kidnapping and stuff, which is supposed to be legal, being that the CIA technically doesn't have jurisdiction in the United States. But we know that's a lie. There's just so much stuff, man, and it's just like, what'll be the primer? What'll be the catalyst or the moment where something major happens? Because you talk about the whole false flag alien invasion. That's predicted to come. Werner von Braun was talking about it in Project Mars in 1952. He also predicted the rise of Elon Musk. And a lot of people don't know this when they talk about his 1952 book is the term Elon is actually not a name. It's a title. And if you go down the rabbit hole, a person like me that was in this old MK Ultra program, I know that Elon Musk is in MK Ultra. I know his mom is programmed. She uses Emerald programming. She's always showing off her hand signals. Whenever Elon does major events, he wears satanic symbols. He wears inverted stars on his jackets. And basically, Werner said that Elon would colonize Mars. And the term Elon actually means oak tree, the most common symbol found in victims of MK Ultra programming. So, like, we have a guy that we installed, Elon Musk. Before him, he was bankrupt. And then it was our government that gave him all the deals to create his own space program. 2 years before he created it, you have Jeff Bezos started Blue Origin. I think it was Blue Origin. He started that in 2001. So SpaceX, I think, came out in 2003. And then suddenly they're the two richest people on the planet, coincidentally, out of nowhere. So with all this in mind, how do we restructure all this from a top down kind of thing? Because we both know that most presidents are selected not, I'm mind farting here. We're basically, they're like installed. We think we have a democracy, but we really don't. It hasn't been a true democracy since the Act of 1871. You were talking about a year before that, 1870 with Lincoln. But 1 year later, we lost all of our rights and we got registered as a corporation. So when Robert still went to the hospital, at that point, he gave up jurisdiction and autonomy to his body. And they wrote legislation. If you become belligerent or you can't represent yourself in a way that goes against what they're trying to do, you become a ward of the state. And at that point, you can have all these forced medical procedures on you, and it never ends. It's like you say, the FBI comes to your door. The first thing I'm going to ask is, can I see your foreign agent registration card, please? You know what I'm saying? You're right.
That's a good one.
I would call the marshals because number one, I'm like, that agent does not have jurisdiction to even be talking to me at that moment. So I would want to call, like you said, the sheriffs, but I would want to call the marshals because they have jurisdiction over the actual land. Because ever since 1871, our laws become maritime law. So the marshals have the land jurisdiction. So they are the highest police force in the United States.
The U.S. Marshals?
Yes, they legally are. I think they're above the sheriffs. The marshals are.
Oh, shoot. I shouldn't have yelled at them then the other day when they came to my door to bother me for some BS. And I yelled at them because I saw them violating their own policies on several fronts. And now that I know they're something more important than what I thought, I'll make sure I don't yell at them next time. Okay, Drago?
What are they harassing you with this time?
Oh, they were just they were giving me a subpoena to give testimony in some old FBI case that they were having problems with, and they're in charge of serving subpoenas, I guess, for federal court type matters, and they came to my door and they were like, oh, we got a subpoena for you and blah blah blah, and they actually came to my door and they gave me the police knock where they do that thing with, like, sometimes they use a Kubaton and they just do that loud that, and and I had family members that were right next to that door, uh, and actually it was my wife was having a get together with her friends and she was in the great room right next to the outer door, and and so they got scared when they heard that knock because that's the knock you use when you're coming to arrest somebody or something. And so I went out there and I just told those guys, why are you knocking on my door like freaking like being like idiots like that when it's
Without calling, without warning?
Say again?
Without calling you or warning you? I mean,
Right. So what I did was, so I started yelling at them because I knew they didn't know that I was law enforcement person. They didn't know anything, basically. They were just like, "Hey, are you John DeSouza?" And I said to them, and that's against their policies because they're supposed to do criminal checks and also do, like, what do you call, a media check on anybody that they're serving subpoenas on. And they obviously didn't do that. So that's why I was yelling at them because I said, you guys are not following your own procedures because you guys don't know who I am, and you would have known if you had just done a quick media check like you're supposed to on every person that you serve subpoenas on. So anyway, you got to know some of their procedures because it helps you to fight against when they're doing tyrannical things and stuff like that. So that's what happened to me. It was pretty annoying, but that stuff happens all the time.
It's funny that you get to be on the opposite side of that door and realize, man, you guys can certainly be inappropriate at certain times, man. Like, again, there's no need for that. Like, it's
Right.
basically like notifying all your neighbors that police is now coming down upon you, and your neighbors have to now speculate why the police are there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a bit unfair to do that.
Exactly. And I always tell people, if you have any law enforcement come and harass you at your door, you always first get their badge numbers, get their credentials numbers, get their names, and tell them that you need to verify who they are with the Washington, D.C. number of their office, which they all have. All of them have offices in Washington, D.C. You just call up 202 area code, information. Hey, give me the organization for this guy so that I can verify that he is who he is, because you don't know who that person is. You have no idea. There's no reason you should be opening a door and talking to them when you don't know what it's about. It's just ridiculous. But we need to get back to a more hardy existence, a more like frontier-like existence, where citizens will stand up for their rights, no matter who's on the other side of that door. And we need to do that. We need to do it now, because time is running out for the final great authoritarian push from the cabal. And they're going to use every agency they can get their hands on, and they're going to use them all. So we do need to get our story straight, so to speak, before that happens. That's super important.
Laura, did you want to say something?
No, I'm just, yeah, totally in agreement. And I mean, yeah, you were talking about just fake alien invasion and you being on these paranormal cases throughout your career.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the recent stuff with
Yeah.
Mall and what
Yeah.
that is all about. What did we really
Yeah.
get into that much? Could you kind of take us there?
Yeah, what I wanted to address that real quick. We've had this incident at the what was it? It was like the Del Mar Mall in it was in Florida. Florida, is that right? It was this mall in Florida where we had these 10-foot aliens appear in the mall and panic all the people that were inside. And it was so much testimony from people who were there, different people, independent sources, separate independent sources, where people talked about that incident. And they said that, and of course, the police used the cover story of, you always have to first look for the cover story. Why are they using this cover story? Why is it good for them? Why are they thinking this cover story is going to cover everything? And one of the reasons they use the cover story of the kids that were having a fight or something in the mall is because I believe it actually did happen, but it happened like the day before the aliens showed up. And again, this was, and I tell you the truth, this scenario has been repeated in other places. Okay, I need to go look up the dates and the exact locations, but it happened also in a very similar situation, where you had they almost looked like Hollywood aliens, and they showed up in Brazil. They showed up in Brazil, in a major city area, and they attacked the people, made them, tried to panic them, stampede the herd, so to speak. And they successfully did that in Brazil. Then it happened again in Peru. It was in Peru, in a more impoverished area, and they had these alien, again, 10-foot aliens that appeared. And in Peru, they said they looked more predator-like from the movies, like predator-like. And the men, in a country where supposedly nobody has guns, the men all came up with guns and started shooting at these things. And this occurred, I believe, last year. It was like probably over a year ago. And they started shooting at these things, and then their bullets didn't affect the creatures at all. So then what happened? One of the creatures actually slashed the neck of a 16-year-old girl, just slashed her neck with weapons. They had a lot of weapons on these aliens. And then I didn't catch whether the young lady died or not. But it's just an example that, people are thinking these things are just holograms. And then when they come in contact with them, I'm thinking they're going to find out very different. And that's going to be very dangerous when it happens. So then it happened also in California, somebody's backyard, where they got some films of these 10-foot aliens. Again, they were slightly different from the other incidents in Brazil and Peru, but slightly the same also. And there were like these 10-foot aliens in somebody's backyard. The police were there, and the police actually got some film from the dash cam of their police vehicle. And there were these again, huge creatures that were just back there in their backyard. And it was an amazing incident. So now, then we come to this event that just happened at the mall in Miami. Yeah, it was Miami. In Miami, Florida. And again, 10-foot creatures. There was some testimony about possibly a portal that opened up in the mall, and that these creatures came out of the portal. Once you dismiss the cover story, it becomes a lot easier to investigate what actually happened. And so, and we know that the police response was off the charts. It was crazy. And it became apparent to us that the police had been told basically that there was a 9/11 level event going on at the Miami. Everyone in law enforcement knows that means massive potential for death and destruction. That's basically all the regular police were told. And there were all the departments were there too for Miami. It was like sheriffs, PD, everybody was there from all the different places. Now, here's my concern: is that in this incident, no one was actually killed. They were all driven with panic. They were all freaking horrified, terrified of these 10-foot aliens that sometimes they described as sort of kind of like shadowy people, sort of like shadow people. Some of them described that at times they seemed transparent. We saw the films, all of them also, in which sometimes there was one creature that was walking out in the street in front of a whole row of police officers. And you could see that, and that creature looked sort of like extra dimensional, because I mean, it kind of looked a little bit, I don't know, like hologrammy like sort of. And so this brings all these questions, but the problem is this. And we're never going to get like a resolution from police or from any official sources, of course, because they're just not authorized by the cabal to give us the truth about this. So we're not going to find out from them. So we have to find out the truth for ourselves. But here's the truth that I finally boiled down to on this Miami Mall incident, is that number one, I do believe they were extra dimensional creatures. So they were not from other planets. It's like I've always written in my book, The Extra Dimensionals. These are not creatures from other planets in our space. These are extra dimensional creatures. They are from other dimensions, and they are allowed to temporarily be here. Now, it looks to me like they are actual creatures, and they are, oh, there we go, the extra dimensionals, and they are extra dimensional in nature. Now, here's the problem. I'm starting to believe that the portals were real, and that there is an element of sorcery here, sorcery from the cabal. They're very good at sorcery, and it's kind of like, it's like this sorcery that's mixed with science, breakaway science that we don't even know about. And they use these elements and combine them in order to make these creatures come here, whether they want to or not.
They call it a ritual.
Yes, that's it. Sorcery rituals. And I believe those were used in order to make these creatures appear. And, I have a lot of fans who are actually Christians, and they always harangue me. They always harass me and say, why don't you just say that they're demons? Just say that they're demons. Well, they're not. They're not. They are extra dimensional creatures, possibly created by other intelligences. And that's what I believe they are. And now here's the problem. you have a lot of talking heads out there who are saying, "Oh, it's all just holograms," and it's Project Bluebeam. Is that what it's called? It's all Project Bluebeam. It's just holograms. It's no big deal. Well, the problem with that is that, like this 16-year-old girl that was slashed by one of these creatures in Peru, I think it was Peru, uh, and what's going to happen is that this is going to happen again. And they're going to have these creatures appear again in the United States. And what's going to happen is somebody's going to say, somebody's going to say, I'm not scared. I'm going to go up to these creatures because they're just holograms. They're holograms. There's nobody. And that person is going to probably get their heads cut off because they're listening to people who don't know what they're talking about. And I would never advise anybody that these creatures are just holograms. They have no substance. No, they do. They have substance, and they are. And I don't want anybody, if they see these creatures, to just like go up to them and say, "Oh, you're just a hologram." Nothing's going to happen to me, because when that happens, uh, they are going to find out, and they possibly can be killed. And so I'm basically trying to tell people this, so that they don't believe some of these ridiculous talking heads that just, they don't investigate these matters. They don't know anything, and they're just like, "Oh, it's Project Bluebeam. It's just holograms. That's all it is." I don't believe they are. I don't believe they are. I believe they are actual extra-dimensional creatures that have been conjured by the cabal in, what'd you say, ceremonies, rituals. That's what you said. In rituals. And they're going to do it again because this one was so successful. And I'll tell you something else. I believe that while this whole incident was going on, there were several black helicopters that showed up unmarked with no markings on them.
Which is
And
illegal.
say again?
Which is illegal.
Unless they are special forces military, which I believe those black helicopters, because everything else there had markings from the PDs, from state troopers, from everything. And I believe those black helicopters were from the white hats. They were special forces, military white hats who were surveilling the situation just in case lots of people start getting killed, so that they could intervene, because they were fully expecting for the cabal to have these aliens start chopping people's heads off. And the cabal kind of pulled back on that, and it didn't happen. But it very well could happen the next time. So that's what I'm trying to warn people about, because these things were real. They were real, but on what level is the question, And I believe they were real in the sense that I explained in my book, The Extra Dimensionals. They have the ability to temporarily be and partially physical in our dimension, but they can't hang on to that forever, or for very long. It's temporary, but for short bursts, they can be extremely physical. And that's what I'm warning people about for when this happens again, which it will soon. Laura, what did you?
Oh, geez. No, I'm just, wow. Well, if anybody's the expert on this, it would be you. So thank God because, discerning
It's
between
only
what's real and what's not is very difficult.
it's only because I try to teach people to be true investigators, and true investigators have to look all over the world for other incidents that we may not think is relevant, but they are. They are, because this operation has been run in other states, in other countries, and in other places. And you got to go look at those and pick up any little clues that you can that will apply to this incident as well. And that's what people have to do, because like I said, this Miami Mall incident is going to happen again pretty soon. And it's going to be, and I believe it's going to be even more severe than the previous incidents that have happened across the United States and across the world.
I have a few questions. Do you talk about a lot about this in your 6-hour paranormal investigator qualification course? And I think you have the case investigation course as well. Do you still do those?
Yes, I do. all of those lessons are available at Portal to Ascension. Portal to Ascension. It's a great site that keeps a repository of all of our lessons, our presentations, and things like that. And so I'm trying to get that organized so that I can have good links back to my website, to my previous lessons that I have done. But if anybody wants to find those like right now, they are available on Portal to Ascension, where I try to teach people, how to be a true investigator, how to be a para investigator as well, which is, I mean, it's very hard, but it's necessary to whenever you're living in a society, which this doesn't happen very often. This is very novel, very unique. When we're living in a society that is based completely on deception, misleading us, keeping us from real information, and trying to use cover stories for everything. Everything that happens has a cover story, a false narrative of what is going on, so that you will be misled. And when you're in that time of society, if you don't have razor sharp discernment, there's no way to get to the truth of anything, even partial truth of anything that's going on. We had a similar period to this. The last similar period we had to what's going on right now was when the Soviet Union was in its last couple of years, in the late 80s, early 90s. And the Soviet Union was completely controlling the information that Russians were able to get. I mean, they were controlling it so much. It was crazy. And eventually, the Russian people had to go out and just talk to American sources of information, try to get anything that was really going on. And that's kind of the situation we're in right now. We're in the last final days of like the Soviet Empire, when that was happening in 1990. Yeah, it was about 1990. And that's what's being repeated now, but much more powerfully, because, as we know, all the tech giants are all in on globalist censorship of everything that we know, we do, and we communicate. And that is gonna get worse, as is what we're going into right now.
Thanks to the World Economic Forum, like, I think the only way we can really take down the cabal is if we reconfigure the United Nations and what their mission is, because they basically oversee all these countries. And if we want to rise up against our own government to try to take back that power that is written in our Constitution, not necessarily by killing all these government officials, I don't believe we should ever do that. I think they need to be imprisoned. Period.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
how do we do that? Like, everybody wants our rights back. We want to have a president that will respect. I've said this in a couple of shows. There's a famous quote that says, "I'm not anti-government. I just want a constitution. I'm sorry. I just want a government small enough to fit inside the Constitution and
Oh,
to
that's
go
good.
by those rules." And it's hard to find that these days, because you have the World Economic Forum being controlled by Davos, and basically Switzerland is the home to the CIA. So you have all these top-down orders coming down from Switzerland, and they're implementing it in all the countries around the world. So it's almost like it's beyond overt. It's a full takeover of the entire planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of segues into their plan about the fake alien invasion. Do you think that the incident at the Bayside Mall is a precursor to start bringing out more of these kind of sightings, in order to start prepping the public for when this thing happens? People are already going to be prepared for it.
Yeah, of course, that's a part of it, but that also juxtaposes into the great UAP, the great UAP movement that is pushed forward, where government is trying to take over ufology completely. They had the U.S. Navy rename UFOs to UAPs, and unidentified aerial phenomena. That's it. And you have all these these supervillains who are trying to push forward the UAP agenda. All these individuals like Louis Elizondo, the rock star guy, what's his name?
Tom DeLonge.
Yeah, Tom DeLonge. And then you have Christopher Mellon from the Mellon Foundation, one of the richest families in the country, and who's also a former CIA official. And you have a whole bunch of CIA supervillains who are also involved in this UAP situation. And the UAP PSYOP, which is going forward right now, we're seeing these UAPs all over the world, and they're these little silverish kind of they look like super drones. They look like super drones, and they're silverish. Some of them are oval, some of them are cylinders, but they're all over the world now, and they're attacking our airlines. And that's happening right now. They're attacking our airlines all over the world, and right now they're attacking them with what you call at what the FAA calls near misses, but which means their UAPs coming within like within like a quarter of a mile of another airliner, or coming even closer than that, just to scare them. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're just trying to create terror of these UAPs, and we're now coming to the point where soon, and these have been reported all over the country, these near misses. Well, when a near miss is done on purpose, it's a military action. It's a militarily hostile action. Okay, so that's a little fact that they are glossing over at Congress and at the Senate, and they're just kind of like, yeah, all these near misses are happening. We need to find out more about the UAPs and find out more about what they are. It's like, that's not true. If these are real UAPs that are attacking our airliners, then that should be considered a militarily hostile action. Those vehicles should be destroyed. I mean, that's how I see. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. Why? Because they're playing both sides. They're playing both sides. They're trying to get the military industrial complex to give them more money to fight against these UAPs. But at the same time, they're allowing the UAPs to do whatever they want. So it's, they're playing against us, against the American people on many various sides. That's where we are. And then the UAP program is being merged also to these alien creatures that are appearing in malls and in backyards and in open camp fields where other people are. So this is all part of the great deception that's going to be it's going to be fake alien invasion, because the invasion is going to be real. The destruction from these UAPs is going to be real as well. But the only thing that's not real is that it's not going to be driven by these alien creatures. It's going to be driven by our own governments that are
That's so they can
behind
steer the narrative on just how they constantly overlay something with artificial, like a psyop, in order to,
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly. Because I believe that it's looking like, if there are true aliens involved with this, they may not be willingly participating in this. If you get, and I'm sure Drago knows, if you are conjured by a ritual, you as an entity are often not voluntarily there. You're not doing this because you want to, because the person who is doing the conjuring has all the power in that situation. At least that's how it's supposed to be. So that's the situation where we are here, where possibly both humans and alien creatures may are being in the process of being used by these, globalist cabal powers that are trying to get these things to happen. That's what I believe.
Gotcha.
And I know that these ceremonies and rituals are real because one thing that most people in the SSP don't talk about, since I'm an SSP experiencer myself, all SS people are required to go through rituals and ceremonies. And if you talk to some of these experiencers, we're in the rooms when they do sacrifice and they call these entities. And it's some extremely dangerous stuff. And when they come in, they're from a different density. So when they
Right.
appear, it looks like they're not solid. They're coming in extra dimensionally because they're getting pulled between two densities. So they're
Right.
not going to be a solid form. That's one thing people don't understand. They say it's a hologram. No. I've done over 500 quantum healing hypnosis technique sessions, Dolores Cannon style. And what we found out is when these beings come from other dimensions, especially higher dimensions, they cannot come in solid because their energetics is not compatible with the 3D. So we're only getting flickers. It looks like you can
Right.
call them Jinn or something. It looks like smokeless fire or an apparition.
Okay.
That's what the real truth is. So like these beings at the Bayside Mall,
Mhm.
more than likely, I just what you said. I heard there was some remote viewings done, and they said the same thing. A ceremony was performed under that area because there's some military stuff that goes on under that area. And they brought it forward to see and to test the public's reaction to see what would happen. And my biggest question is what's holding anybody from doing a FOIA request for all the body cam footage and all the footage from the police cars? Because all we get is this grainy photo from a helicopter. So, what about all this body cam footage?
They would have been, I'm pretty sure they would have been told to uh, not have their body cams on because it's a very easy thing. And I believe they were also told uh, not to engage, not to engage any creatures that they came across because you can see clearly that there's that long row of vehicles, of responding vehicles that are actively responding in an emergency fashion. But then you see that giant 10-foot creature that's kind of walking over by the stairs in the water fountain, I believe it was, or some kind of structure. And it was walking clearly over there. But none of the police are getting out of their vehicles. I've never seen police responding to an emergency but not getting out of their vehicles when they arrive. This is the first time I've ever seen that. Well, what does that mean? That means they were all given an order, do not engage. And they probably wouldn't even told the reason, but it's a very simple thing from the top to just give them an order, go and respond, but don't engage, except engage with the citizens to make sure they don't get any film of what's going on. That's the orders that they were given. And that's why they stayed in their cars during that whole period. So I think, asking for the body cam, the dash cams, I don't think it's going to give you anything because I believe they were very careful to not engage at all with any creatures that they saw. But that's where we are with that. So that's not going to be, it's not going to be resolved that way. It can only be resolved by us analyzing it the way you just did. That was brilliant, by the way. Everything that you said, that's what I've been saying, that these creatures are extra dimensional. They are coming here. They cannot achieve complete physicality, not complete, but we can get, what'd you say, glimpses? You said like glimpses or flashes?
Yeah,
Something.
they come in as more like an apparition or like
Yes.
it looks like a
Yes.
gaseous plasmic discharge of a solid body, but the photons in 3D are different than the photons in the other densities. So our rods and our cones in our eyes, we can only pick up certain frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Our hearing in our eyes, we only see and hear less than 1% of the entire visual and acoustic spectrum. So
Right.
imagine that 99% of every being that exists in the cosmos are directly in front of us right now, walking around us. And we've
Mm-hmm.
been so hybridized through genetic mutation that we can't even see it because they turn those genes off. Cats,
That's
dogs, Cats and dogs see more than we do. How often are you in your house when your cats or your dogs, they're all staring at the same thing and you're like, what are they looking at? They're
Right,
looking at a freaking being, man, and you have to understand that. And there
right.
has been a shift, you're right. Before the UAP stuff was going on, it was the Air Force that had full jurisdiction, and now it's shifted to the Navy, which
Right.
they're doing more solar warden, which is going to unveil Earth Defense Force, Mars Defense Force.
Mhm.
Then there's JDFC, Joint Division Forces Command, all kinds of SSP programs. And I
Mhm.
believe they're trying to bring it out now and prep the public so when they launch this fake alien invasion, the
Mhm.
public already knows the structure. Trump already pulled in Space Force, which he didn't technically create. He just brought it out of Solar Warden to the public. And now we have the five, which is freaking awesome because I don't live too far from US SOCOM here in Tampa. And unfortunately, that's one of the deep underground military bases they abduct me in. It's part of my program, but we liaison through US SOCOM. And that's where a lot of the SSB is coming from. And that's where a lot of the TR3Bs are being seen from. And they
Mhm.
overtly show their SSB craft all through Tampa. People talk about it all the time. So
Mhm.
there's something's coming, man. I know it. You
Oh,
know it.
absolutely. And I just wanted to focus for a moment on one thing that you said. You said that even though these things are transiting between dimensions, and this is whether you're talking about demons or whether you're talking about alien creatures, alien entities, they are able to achieve like flashes of physicality, of full physicality. And what I want to tell people is that one of those flashes of full physicality is enough to cut your head off. That's what I want people to know so that they will avoid this in the future because that's what we're facing. That's what we're facing. And then when it happens, I always get people, saying to me, like what happened in, I believe, in Brazil and in Peru, where these alien creatures showed full physicality at times. They showed full physicality. And then we have people, and then I always have people saying, "Hey, John DeSouza, didn't you say that these aliens they can't achieve full?" But no, it's probably a flash of physicality, of full physicality that they are able to achieve as they're traveling between states, like as they're moving between states of matter. And yeah, and it's enough to possibly kill you. So that's why I just want people to be super careful when this happens again in another mall, maybe the mall in your neighborhood, and uh, and don't be blustering up to these creatures and saying that, hey, you can't do anything to me. I heard from so and so you're just a hologram, and you may find out very differently because this, I am certain, is part of the cabal's plan as well to go to the next step in this whole psyop that involves UAPs, involves the mall aliens, the backyard aliens, and all this stuff. And the next step is to have these creatures possibly kill people in IRL, in real life. So that's what we have to be so careful of.
I watch a lot of paranormal docu series. I'm sure that's your world and what you're very familiar with. I mean, people have bruises and scratches, and people get real close to death with spirit.
Right.
What's going on in the interdimensional?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We know it's a real phenomena, even when you have um, what people call dreams that are very vivid, and you come back from those vivid dreams, and you've got these injuries that appear in places on your body. That's the transition. That's the movement between dimensions that's going on right there, and you can bring back real effects, physical effects from your experiences that have to do with non-linear extra dimensional experiences, which vivid dreams can be also. Absolutely. So also I wanted to just mention to you guys real quick that you see here on the side of me my book, The Clear Hearers, The Clear Hearers. And I wanted, oh, Drago, you got that one too? You're kidding me.
I got all your books, man.
Dude, you're amazing, dude. Seriously. You're totally amazing. You are eclectic. Yes. And the reason that's important is because this is one of the cabal's new procedures that's been going on is to and you saw it in the movie, in that movie, that freaking piece of propaganda, the Leave the World Behind, where they attacked the regular people. They attacked them with sonics and sonic voice to skull technology, which, by the way, all the governments have that. They have it, they've used it, and they're refining it more and more. And we are getting messages from them. Okay? One of the problems is that the cabal has read my book, The Clear Hearers. So they know how to perfectly imitate your own higher self voice that you already have access to. Everyone has access to it. You know, I get contact with my own higher voice from time to time, all the time. But the problem is that the cabal knows exactly how clear hearing works. And so now they're sending out messages to people on a large scale. On a large scale, they're sending out messages, and we saw a lot of this during the COVID epidemic, or psyop, or whatever you want to call it, where they sent out messages to people in large scales that were just 7 or 8 words. That's one of the things I teach about clear hearing, is that your higher voice, your greater self, speaks to you very short, clear messages, accompanied by feelings. They have the ability to send back feelings to you to reinforce whatever the message was. Well, what has the cabal been doing during this pandemic? They have been sending out messages to people that basically say, just take the vax. It'll be fine. Just take the vax. It'll be fine. That message was broadcast to people all over the world in different languages and different things, and in their own voice. Is that what you were going to ask, Laura?
Well,
That's what I was.
yeah, and also just the criminal behavior and just, that's increasing just out of the blue, just people committing murder, that I mean, it's not just their corrupt soul, it's they're getting these messages. They think it's their inner voice to do these,
Mhm.
and that's
That's
increasing as well, right?
Yes, and that's why I ask people to educate themselves. Just read my book, The Clear Hearers, please, because if you don't have that discernment, and the people who verified this for me, that this was happening, was David Icke and Cliff High. Both of them said when the pandemic was going on that they knew many people who were receiving these messages. Again, same message. It's this one that goes, just take the vax, it'll be fine, accompanied by feelings of warmth and comfort. Okay? And that was happening all over the world. Cliff High actually said he actually wanted that he went out and found people in Montana that had no cell service, no electronic signals at all, because they were out in the hinterlands. All right. And they received the same message, the same message. So Cliff High had been assuming that it was 5G that was involved with this, and telephone cell towers were involved with these messages. But what he finally said was, it looks like there's an element of sorcery with these messages as well, because there's people being reached by these messages who have no electronic access at all, and yet they also got these messages. And I believe David Icke said something similar for around the world, not just the United States. So these messages are always in your voice, whoever you are. It's in your voice somehow, and they're short, they're clear, and they're accompanied by feelings, emotions that come to you also. And this is so important because people are going to be getting these now that the cabal has proven this works. It works in large scale amounts because, as we all said, there were many people that were at the beginning of this pandemic were like, I'm never taking the government vaccine. Screw that. I ain't doing that. Never. And then you talk to those people like a month later and they'd be like, yeah, I got the vaccine. And you'd be like, what? Why? And then their answer didn't make any sense. It was like, it just didn't make any sense.
No.
Those are the people that received the message. They received the message. And then they weren't able to distinguish that that's not their voice, that there's not their message. And then they went ahead and did it. Well, I'm here to testify to you guys, this is going to be happening again. This is going to be happening again. And the message is probably going to be something during a catastrophe where it's something like, just bow down to the alien overlords. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Accompanied by feelings of warmth and comfort from our alien overlords. You see, that's the sort of thing that's going to be happening.
Right. And then some are just immune to it, though, that won't be talked into it, that like you and like we're just holding on to this discernment, right? It just, there's some people
Right.
that cannot be manipulated.
Right. But we still hear it. And it's very frightening when it happens, when you get these messages that, that's not you. That's not, even though it's your voice, it's not you, because the message says something completely against your personality, your character, and the kind of person that you are. And so you have to be able to have the discernment to say, okay, that was not my thought. That was not my thought. And the problem is 90% of humanity, and the cabal knows this, 90% of humanity just don't believe in anything that's paranormal. And they just want to accept whatever comes into their mind. That's got to be my thought. That's got to be my thought. They have no discernment, and that can be the death of them. That's what we're looking at now. That's
How
it.
cruel. Just all of these agendas. God.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the highest forms of weaponization you can do, where you basically target the mind directly and make you think that the thoughts are yours and yours alone.
Exactly.
One thing I've learned to ask myself, does this thought violate my moral guidelines?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like you're going to have stereotypes pop in your mind and a judgment about somebody. And I often ask myself, I say, I would never say that, ever. And what I do is telepathically, I will apologize to the being and say, I'm sorry for having that thought. I did not mean it. I recognize it as a source that's not from me. I apologize. Please forgive me. Always. Because there's no difference between physical thoughts and physical worlds according to the cosmos. So if you think negative thoughts about people, there's no difference than saying it to their face. So you got to watch who you want to become in this world. If you want to become the change you want to see, and to help uncover all this, it starts with your own thoughts.
Absolutely. And you know what? Jesus Christ said the same exact thing that you just said. That's really important stuff. Very important, Drago. What do you think, Laura?
It's the most important thing. And, just it's like practicing, or I see it like strengthening a muscle, like your intuition. It can atrophy if you're not constantly exercising it. Yeah, to have that discernment. I mean, gosh, thank you so much, John. It's just so important. Your expertise, all that you've done, all that you do, all the material that you've put out. It's just invaluable.
Thank you, Laura. Invaluable. That means like valuable, right?
Like beyond valuable, right?
You know when they say you are in love,
Extremely useful, indispensable. It means
Nice.
that means you are in value. You are in your emotion. So yes, very good thing. That's what being in love is. It's kind of like I'm in hate. You're in a mental frame where that is the emotion. So I am in hate. I am in love. I am in lust. know those things, and it can change the way you think. Now, before we leave, I just want to say two things.
Valuable beyond estimation. Yep, go ahead.
Nice.
Going back to Leave the World Behind, one of the things no one paid attention to was the main character. His name was HW. And he talked about there was someone who was giving him intelligence that's so high up in the government that he cannot say his name because it would be too obvious. Now think about the name HW.
H.W. Bush.
Okay, now link that to Obama.
Mm.
Bush was running Obama. Then you have all this predictive programming coming out. The main character tells you that this was the plan since the beginning. And now that the plan happened, there's no more joking around and it officially comes to fruition. So I always thought that was interesting. The moment I seen HW, I'm like, Herbert Walker Bush, man. Like, come on. And then the final question, it's more of something funny. I work with a guy named Lance in Tampa, Florida. I've actually tattooed the last 23 years, and he has a question for you. He said that since you're the original Mulder, is there a real life Scully? And if so, who is she? And he wants to know, is she a hot redhead?
um, there, there, there is a young lady that I worked with for years, and she's a blonde, not a redhead, and she's very similar to similar to Scully in many ways, and she she fell into great problems with the government, basically. Let's put it that way. And so uh, she would not want me to reveal who she is, basically. But I'll tell you this: she's in the movie a Thousand Pieces. If you want to check it out, you would see her in there. That's where she is.
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
put all
Thank
the
you for
links.
confirming that Scully exists in real life. That's freaking awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll share all that in the links too. It's an incredible documentary. I saw it right away when you first came out. Yep.
Great, Laura. Good stuff. You guys have it going on here. It's good.
In the end, do you have any predictions for the future of what we can do as a people to pretty much try to stop what's coming, or how we can awaken others? Pretty much anything.
Yes, people just need to uh, look into for themselves without using Google or any of the fake sources of information. Just need to look into who the white hats are, the white hat military that is very active right now, and who is trying to return our society to a civilized society. I would ask them to look into that. Look into what they're doing, what's going on, and try to understand that one of the greatest the greatest method of communication we have right now. It's counterintuitive, but it's TikTok. It's TikTok. That's why the great overlords of tech have been trying to destroy TikTok. They tried to get the Congress to outlaw it, to ban it, and the reason is because TikTok is from the Dragon family. They're not from the Chinese government, not at all. They are actually from the Dragon family that works with America, and TikTok is the only way these days we can get real peer-to-peer information. You just go into TikTok, you create your own algorithm, blot out all mainstream sources, all celebrities, all anything else that exists in your algorithm, and then you just get communications from other people who are at the scene of whatever's happening. When this Miami Mall alien incident happened, the only way we were able to find out what was really going on is by getting on TikTok and hearing from people who are at the scene, who are actually at the scene, not celebrities, not mainstream news or anything like that, but just get on TikTok and use it to get that information from people who are there at the scene.
Grassroots style.
Yeah, and it works, and it's like again, it's like the last year of the Soviet Union empire. We're hurting for information here. And TikTok is one of the few ways that we can actually get what's going on at the scene from citizens, from regular citizens, not from the news, not from talking heads, not even from gurus or whatever, but from the people themselves. So I just want people to know that that is one of the very few ways that we have left to
Oh,
get true information from
that's good
other
to know.
peer to peer. Yeah.
Gosh, well, I know we need to close, and Drago's gonna close with some final thoughts. I did want to ask you about you being here to be the 10th man. Is there any way in just a few words you can explain what that means?
Yeah, the 10th man is a concept that was used in a great movie with Brad Pitt. What was it? The zombie. It was a zombie type movie.
Something X or
World War Z.
World War Z.
That's it. World War Z, where he talked about it, and it's something that's actually used in intelligence agencies all over the world. It is the funding and using of a resource called the 10th man. It is a person who is completely contrarian to the majority of a committee, the majority of all the people that work on a committee, to tell the executive what's going on, what's happening. And the 10th man is always the person who is able to say, those guys are full of crap. They don't know what they're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Here's what's going to happen. And then the 10th man suggests the unthinkable, the stuff that too many people would never believe until it happens. And that's what I always try to be. I try to be the 10th man for people to suggest things that are not welcome. They're not welcome in the UFO community. They're not even welcome by other awakened people. But it is the duty of the 10th man to bring these things up and to suggest the unthinkable, because we are living right now in the hyper novel times where things are happening every day that have never happened before, ever. And that's when it becomes important to be that 10th man. In other intelligence agencies, they call it something else. They have different names for it. But the 10th man is a very good name. And so we all need to strive to listen to the 10th man, because, like I said, we're in hyper novel period right now of things going on. Different things, new things that never happened before. And that's what we need to look out for, Laura. Very important.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much, John, for your time with us today. It's been so incredible. It always is. And I know Drago was going to wrap it up with some final thoughts, right, Drago?
That's right. As we close this final chapter of the X-Files, just remember that we are not alone in the universe. We are just a species with amnesia, and our star families are waiting for us to awaken and remember. The truth is out there. Until next time, everyone. Thank you, John, for your bravery and your story and your journey. You're a very inspiring person, and I just want to thank you again.
Thanks so much, Drago. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks,
Good
John.
stuff. Good stuff,
Awesome.
guys.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning into the Rebel Collective. We'll see you next time. Bye.